and we can stick with this if we want. Before this episode begins, I just wanted to make a distinct shout out to Brandon Grill and Jessie Comfort. Brandon and Jessie are preferred partners of Flourish Your Practice, meaning they are my go-to first options for contracted services and projects that fit their respective skills. Brandon owns digital marketing with a history of SEO-informed content writing for blogs and other channels, and now is focusing on Google Ads and marketing analytics. Jessie brings sales and outreach team leadership and provides her expertise to train growth teams and improve operations of a practice's client acquisition strategy. I would highly recommend reaching out to either of them with any questions or just to say hi. I'm so grateful I got to have a conversation with them today. I consider them friends and colleagues. We cover mental health, marketing yourself in today's landscape, and our personal journeys as entrepreneurs. I really hope you enjoy the conversation, and as always, please reach out, subscribe, and leave a comment. No, both of you guys have been very adamant early supporters of mine and of Flourish, which is I have unspeakable gratitude towards. Every time I would have a call with either of you guys the last, 8-9 months or so, I would always leave it feeling super recharged, inspired, refreshed, and encouraged to keep doing what I'm doing. And so part of what I want to do is just create this really awesome collection, this community of mental health and human experience entrepreneurs that are doing cool things. And a bit, in general, I worked for large nonprofits. I worked for large treatment companies. And for me, I saw mental health and behavioral health from sort of like a systems lens of all these huge companies. But in the last year or so, I've really been able to see the effects of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, grassroots, people chipping in and consulting, marketing, all the different things that you're seeing out there now. And this is why I'm really excited to have both of you guys on and kind of talking more in depth with each other. Brandon comes from a writing background and has a really beautiful, unique voice with mental health. We've shared a couple clients now up to this point. I trust him immensely with his content, with his SEO strategy. He's extremely thorough. Now he's pivoting into Google Ads and will be successful at that because he's extremely intentional and detail-oriented. Jessie and I have very similar paths in the direct clinical behavioral health worlds and the bandwidth that requires and the sensitivities that you have to navigate every day. Jessie specifically in a acute child psychiatric setting, which I cannot imagine just that day, every day, how that, you need to show up for that. Then she worked in clinical outreach, which is basically, it's sales for mental health and just the ethics of wanting to grow an organization, a startup, whatever it is. But also the product is healing, which is super just bizarre and backwards and brings a lot of questions to the surface. And you're doing the right stuff because you're spreading the word of treatment that can change people's lives. And there's a lot of ethics that go into it. So no, Jessie and I have always connected on that. And we do similar things around behavioral health consulting. Again, she's, I think, more of like a systems thinker and a process person. She really cares about ethical systems for growth with organizations. And it sounds like she's landed, in her words, her dream client. And she seems like in a really great place with all that. So I know you guys have met before, but I just wanted to kind of tee you guys up a little bit and shout out you guys a little bit more. To hit home what you're saying about overusing one pathway, I've never heard it that way before, but it makes so much sense for me. Being able to understand not just the work we do, the amount, but the different types of work we do. You, again, with writing content, I'm sure it's very thematic and very, kind of qualitative. And it sounds like Google Ads is more quantitative and analytical. So yeah, Jesse, I'm curious if that applies and kind of Burnout, your relationship with work. It sounds like you just came from a situation where you were able to sort of reflect and zone back into yourself a little bit. So I'm curious, anything on what Brandon had said.
Goodness. Yeah, all of it. I agree. That's a completely different way of thinking about burnout. And I actually, the thing that catapulted me into my solo entrepreneurship, wow, that's a hard word to say, was a situation of burnout and was a situation where I was not associating with the parts of me that were struggling, and I was really struggling um, to like to to do work, period. And I needed to take a period of rest. And so you're right. Now, after a week of a yoga retreat in Mexico, I was reflecting actually on one of your first questions, Ryan, where you asked, or maybe no, maybe it wasn't the first one, but you asked about um, like something about like what we really value about being able to work for ourselves. And I would say that like my biggest privilege is that I make my own schedule. Therefore, I can honor like when I need to rest and when I need to recharge, and I get to reflect. And that was what last week was, taking time to not be a bit small business owner, just be a person that practices yoga in the sun every day.
Hmm.
And yeah, to that point, like I think when we think about burnout and like needing to reset from it, often we think of something like that, going on a yoga retreat and escaping in some way. But I think the reality for most people is that you have to figure out how to make change within your day to day. And yeah, anyways, I love that way of thinking about it. A book that I really appreciated during that time is called The Cure for Burnout by Emily Ballesteros. It's a new book, and it's really incredible, I think, for folks that are currently, working in perhaps like a situation where they can't step away from what they're doing.
Hmm.
But she talks specifically about how to manage burnout and how to stay and also implement new strategies so that you can get healthy. So I really, really recommend that book. It was really, really helpful in my process.
Right on. It's such a like blessing and a curse to be your own boss, to be your own brand. Because again, you have a lot of control, a lot of creative control, but our personal and professional lives intertwine more now more than ever. And again, us in marketing and kind of the growth parts of a business, right? I think all of us believe there's a lot of value in sharing yourself, being authentic, letting people in, being vulnerable. Like that is not just, that helps a business, but that's just a healing way to approach your work, is to be vulnerable and authentic. But that comes with a burnout. That comes with like, oh my God, like I just want to do something to just do it. And no one else needs to know about it. There doesn't have to be any other strategy behind it. But I'm sure I've had to think about this more. And my boundary is always getting tested with like, wanting to be more vulnerable and integrating my story more. And that makes me feel good. And when people respond to it, that makes me feel great and it helps my business. And it's also something I need to manage because like, I need to be able to, do something without even the thought, without even the consideration that this can be leveraged for something business related. So the business and personal identities, like you mentioned hats, like take the business hat off entirely. But that's so much harder to do than you might realize. That's what I've noticed in these last, several months of mine.
Mm-hmm. The amount of pressure that we feel in this type of, when we're doing this, it's like we are the ones that are responsible for everything that we're going to do. But if we maintain a scarcity mindset, all we're going to do is get stuck. And so I think you asked like, what is the biggest challenge of like owning your own business? And it really is just maintaining an abundance mindset, and also like making choices to focus on the things to keep me healthy so that I can continue to do excellent work, because like, it has to be for me to be able to continue to do this. So
Yeah, I want to touch on both of that. I think the personal branding aspect, it's really hard, or it's been hard for me to not overshare. I think in some ways I'm just like an open book, or like a walking, just like I'm pretty open, right? I'll tell anybody anything within reason, not like I'm sharing some deeply held secrets or anything, but on LinkedIn specifically, right? Like 2023, I posted 150 times. I didn't count, but I got like this, notification thing. And so that has kind of carried me through 2024, right? People kind of know me just from that. Even though now I post once every other week, literally just one time. So, but lately I've been more inclined to post about like what's actually going on personally, like how am I feeling about my business, or like what I'm earning, or, making something about my nephews because they're a big part of my life right now. And they will be, going forward. I made a post like a week ago, and it was about how I was comforting somebody who was dealing with a death. I've dealt with 2 deaths in my family this year, like alone. So I felt like it was good to make that. I feel like a lot of times on social media we're posturing really, and I see it more clearly ever than now that I'm not posting as much and I'm not on Instagram in my like personal life. So yeah, I really just wanted to like share behind the scenes. I hate reading posts where it's like this person is trying to project they have it all figured out, because we really don't. Like none of us. Like I think I'm good at what I do and I get good results, but there's so much for me to learn, and I'm not gonna know like 50% of it ever. Um, but you don't need to know all of it to get results, right? The other thing that you were saying, Jesse, is like maintaining an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset. Man, this has been like one of the biggest gifts. Sorry if I'm like going on too long, but this has been like one of the biggest gifts of my personal journey is just realizing how much the like financial trauma aspect has hindered me, and then
Mhm.
trying to work through that, right? And I'm always recommending this workbook to people, The Financial Anxiety Solution by Lindsay Bryan Podvin. It's amazing. I literally took like 2 months to do it. And ever since then, I felt so much better. Of course, there's still a lot to do, but the other thing that I've been doing is, and I got this from Chelsea Lynch. If you guys need a good follow on LinkedIn, every once in a while she'll post about like money. And one like months ago, she was like, I always tip. I always tip. Like even if I tip and I'm like, but I really don't have the money right now. No, screw it. Like just do it, like reorient your nervous system to that abundance feeling.
Mm.
And man, ever since I've been doing that, honestly, I've been bad at like the business aspects of my business, like outreach and like all this. But ever since I've been doing that, I feel like my energy has attracted new opportunities.
Mm.
And it's crazy. Like, yeah, I literally like by any on paper, like my business should be failing. Like I'm not doing outreach, right? But I'm doing like pretty good. So yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Mm.
In like the law of like imagine you have like a financial
Mhm,
statement, and you're trying to like mark down how much investment I put into these areas. You have an account
mhm.
that's like law of attraction account. You spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars
Maxed it
investment
out.
in the law of attraction. Your accountant's like, what's
Mhm.
this account? It's like, don't worry about it. It's been working and I've been able to turn a
Yeah.
profit with that.
It's got a big
It's cool.
ROI.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, no, abundance mindset is so potent and yeah, so relevant. I think one of the things I wanted to go back to was about posting and stories and authenticity and stuff like that. I mean, our stories are ours. They
Mhm,
are our most sacred things. No one can take them away from us. It's ultimately up to us when to share them. And I think the thing for me, it's like when a story becomes a lesson for me, that's when I feel the beginning of wanting to maybe share it. But there are
mhm,
many stories in all three of us and
mhm,
everybody that are not finished yet. There are things that we're still processing and that are still raw. And to post those, or not, to post or to share to whatever with those, before you feel like it's a lesson or some sort of closed resolution, that's where that's what I'm trying to be better about, is like, what meaning can I really derive from this that can help others potentially? That's where I start there. But abundance mindset, Brandon, is so spot on. And I think, yeah, just I know every money book I will read, I don't like how I
mhm,
sound in my head when I'm reading it. I'm like, why can't I be more opportunity and abundance mindset
mhm,
driven? I'm very like conservative when it comes to my own capital and my own energy and stuff like that.
mhm,
But this journey has been about taking that risk and actually allowing for things to happen and being very intentional. But I know it's such a
mhm,
requirement.
It's interesting being on here with you all because if folks go to look at my LinkedIn, they see, not a ton about me. And part of that is because, I just haven't taken the time to invest a ton of energy into developing my personal brand. And so my personal brand really at this point is the relationships that I've developed up until this point in my career. And I think it just goes to show that like for folks to find success in going at it at their own, like it's that equation of like Brandon, what you said, you don't need to know everything. Like 50%, great. And
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. I'm willing to learn. I'm going to take on that like lens of constantly being a student. And then there's also the piece of like that I think is core of good mental health, which also connects all of us, which is relationships and developing and maintaining healthy relationships. And that really has been how I've found the majority of the folks that I've had the, pleasure of working with. And that has superseded my need to develop a personal brand, which will come eventually. I know that that's, a story being written right now. It is
Hmm.
unwritten. But anyways, yeah, but then my other thought with all of that is in my role, I've had the unique opportunity of working with a lot of folks in sales and developing folks and, identifying processes, but also managing folks directly and coaching them. And I think that one of the single like most valuable pieces of an individual that is successful in a sales role are those things. It's having the audacity to say,
Hmm.
I only know a little bit and I'm going to try, but I'm going to learn. Um, and it's this abundance mindset that we're talking about. So I don't know. I don't know that you're bad at outreach, Brandon. I think it's just it's integrated in like who you are and how people know
Mm.
you. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, and that's the sign too of, I think, folks that are really successful so far in the work that I've done. So
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about it like that, but I think that's true. So,
Brandon's one of those people. Brandon's one of those people where when he does choose to speak, that's the verb I would give because he's choosing to. You listen because he is picking his words. He's not talking because he feels like he needs to or he's obligated or he wants to fill empty space. He is choosing because there's something to be said, and he is the
Mm,
one to say it. Like that's very intentional. And so, one of my
thank
questions in
you.
general, and this kind of to dive a little deeper into this, is
mm,
how do you feel you guys communicate yourselves in the market, right?
Hmm.
It goes beyond, I mean, strategy is one piece of it, right? Whether it's an outreach strategy, social media, relationships, whatever it is. But like just in general, I think there's a strategy to, I want my work to do the talking, right? I want happy
Hmm.
clients. I want to be kind of quiet maybe in my marketing because I want to focus on the craft and really get this
Hmm.
work, be really good at this work so my clients are happy, and then that will kind of energize and things will spread from there. There's another school of thought where it's like, okay, I want to just get a lot of clients, so I'm going to be heavy into marketing, and I'll get better as the thing goes because I'll be getting more and more clients and more repetition at it. So in general, how do you guys communicate yourselves in the market? How would you want to be seen in the market? What are some
Mm.
intentions there?
I think the end goal for me could be one of a few things. Chief marketing officer. I want to be like able to do it all, full stack.
Yeah.
Of course, I won't do it all to like 100%, but I want to know each thing at least 70% so I could delegate intelligently, right?
mm,
I'm doing like email marketing, content, SEO planning, and soon to be Google ads. So there's already some of that like aspect there. Also like website redesign, I'm delegating that, but I do have some tools that inform that for myself. So that's one route, a CMO. Another route could be agency owner. Like going back to delegation, right? Like, but also I like the mentorship aspect. I don't just want to tell people like, hey, do this. I want to say like, this is why we're doing this. This is going to be the benefit to the client. I think to this point, I branded myself pretty strongly as just a copywriter in my first year, and I think that is not accurate anymore. But I've kind of left it because I'm not. Honestly, I'm like either too busy or just don't have all the energy in the day to do a full rebrand of myself and my website and my LinkedIn. What
Right
about you,
on.
Jesse?
man, I mean, again, I feel like this is something that haven't, d- I haven't dove deep into yet. But I really appreciate, Ryan, that you described me like as somebody that really values ethics. And I think that at this
Mm,
point, that's like one of the big things that my community and folks that I've worked with professionally would say about me. And I really appreciate um, being able to be an ethical leader, I hope. So that being said, I don't know that I necessarily see a specific title or role because it is very dependent on an organization that I think aligns with my values. That's kind of become the compass that has guided the decisions that I've made professionally in the last year. And yeah, so I think that that's like my initial thought, but I think that I have the exciting opportunity to really dive more into what my personal brand is. And I think I put a lot of pressure on myself when I first started, you know, offering consulting services and to define myself really, like, nail it down and have a niche. But I've kept it pretty broad. And I think that has opened up a lot of opportunities. But again, I think I have
Hmm.
had the unique privilege of benefiting from a really robust community and network of folks that, where I can tap in and find work for my skills. So I don't know that that works for everyone, but it has worked for me. And I'm, at the beginning of the journey of developing my personal brand.
When you were talking, Jesse, I was just thinking one thing kind of leads to the next, right? Like I never expected myself to be an email copywriter. I actually, when I was first starting, I was like, heck no, like I don't want to do that. And now I'm enjoying it, So I think one thing, and marketing is synergistic. So each channel, when you combine it with another, it gets like a better result.
Yeah.
Like email marketing, right? With nobody coming to the website and signing up for that email is like useless, right? But like getting content on the website that can lead into email. But if we're not then capitalizing on that, that's also a missed opportunity. So it's all like, in my view, it's all like synergistic. I think taking it back to the freelancer journey, where it's kind of like a trial and error process. Like we see what we like, we see what the market needs, and we see like what we have skill in, right? And then we kind of just adjust. I think that's probably true for you, Ryan, offering courses now. It was not something that you offered initially, but you kind of saw, trauma-informed therapists, which you love working with. They need help and they want to create the course, but they need a little bit of guidance, right? The other thing that I wanted to mention is that, like, positioning myself in the market, I have a few clients where I could do a case study with them, and I think it would like be a good credit to my business. But I think, and I mean, to some extent, it's kind of dumb not to, right? Like, if I'm getting good results, I should be showing it. But I think there's that part of me that knows that there's another level. And I don't want to do the case study too early. I feel like we're on the precipice of something like really big with a couple of my clients. One of my clients is a solo therapist in Canada, and she's about to hire her first therapist. So that's a good, that's a big deal. So I think when I'm ready, maybe I'll have to do it before I'm ready. When I'm ready, I will create a case study and do all that.
Right on. Yeah. So Brandon, I appreciate you, shouting out kind of my journey, but why I think, as both of you are talking, why I think I use the word communicate to the market is because it's very much a dialogue, like we are communicating ourselves, and also we're receiving information back from our peers, from potential clients, from everybody. And that's a constant like symbiosis of learning and adjusting. And so, Jesse, your network, you are constantly receiving information and kind of good things to improve on, just kind of constant information streams. And that's forming your identity professionally. Brandon, same with you. And definitely, I speak for myself entirely. I came in with a very general idea, and I love behavioral health, and I have the confidence to think I could help in any way, possible with a mental health therapist. But as I listened more and I had a conversation with this market, I heard overwhelmingly from trauma-informed therapists that they want marketing help, B2B email campaigns. They want a lot of courses. Literally, a client of mine is like, Ryan, why don't you run a free support group for trauma therapists wanting their own course? And overnight, 15 to 20 people were like, yes, like across the country, we're like super responsive to that. So it's very much a dialogue, and you're talking, but you're also getting information back and adjusting and going from there. And another piece I wanted to touch on, and I think this fits well here, because we don't do this in a vacuum. And I think to even have the conversation about who am I in a market space, there has to unfortunately be some comparison, right? You look at the other people around you, you look at the other work being done, people you look up to, your peers. it's such a beautiful, necessary part of it, because you
Hmm.
see Brandon talk about like at our conference, all these impressive people and doing
Hmm.
awesome things and awesome companies in, mental health marketing, cool talks and all these milestones they've hit. And I learned so much and had really
Hmm.
good real conversations with awesome people. But it left me feeling like, shit, like I'm overwhelmed. I'm in
Yep.
the
Yep.
beginning stages of this, and you just gotta settle that in your stomach and keep moving forward
Yep.
somehow. So I'd love to hear from both of you, just like the comparison aspects of it. It's necessary because you need to know who's around you and have some
Hmm.
inspiration and learn. But it's also, you get bogged down in it a little bit and you get discouraged. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear both of y'all's thoughts around that kind of stuff.
Jesse.
Yeah. I think my first meeting with a new manager, I'll never forget, we were chatting and I was sharing a little bit of what I was going through, what I was struggling with. And at this time I was working at a company where I was a top performer, one of the top in like a company of like, I think a group of like 100 salespeople or something. And
Nice.
I was really struggling and telling my boss about this. And he said, Jesse, I think that we need to start working on your mindset. And he recommended a book for me. And I think that now, a few years later, thinking about the first thing that I'm looking out for as I'm managing a team, or I'm, keeping track of for myself, it really is like, where am I with my mindset and, mental health? And is that at all influencing the way that I'm taking in this information and maybe comparing myself to other people? Because I can look at it as like, oh my goodness, this person is doing all these things that are amazing and so much better than me. Um, or it can be something that informs, oh wait, like I want to take this step because this energy inspires me. And actually I think of like back when I was a case manager at Seattle Children's Hospital. I'd been working there for 4 years, working in inpatient psych, and had such a wonderful experience, and was learning so much. But when I compared myself to, folks that had been in the role and had moved on, I saw a lot of career paths that I didn't want. And I think
Yeah.
that that was a situation where comparison was really, really helpful to
Yeah.
push me into taking a risk and stepping into clinical outreach, which has now informed, a, a job that I never thought I would have now, which is, running my own business. So I think that, I think mindset is a huge piece of looking at comparison and seeing it as a really valuable tool. And again, I'm also speaking of this as somebody that works with salespeople, where comparison can be the absolute worst thing for somebody that's not performing well. And all of that to say, for somebody that, is feeling good and has a good mindset, they can look at other people's performance and ask, okay, how could I be implementing these strategies? Like, what could I learn? How can I, like, oh my goodness, I admire this person. How can I collaborate with them? Or is it that scarcity of there must be something wrong with me? And I think that that really is like, it's so fun how that is full circle to this entire conversation, and all of the things that we've been talking about, because it really is such an important piece of being able to use comparison as a helpful tool.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great point. There's a couple people that I look up to in the mental health marketing space, and I actually met them, and I kind of saw that they were just human,
Mm.
just like all of us. I think that helps, seeing that they also have flaws, not that they're bad people by any stretch. I think they're amazing, but the other thing that has helped me recently is don't compare my beginning to somebody's middle.
Mm.
I'm only like 3 years into this. Not even that. Like in another month, it'll be 3 years. So not comparing my beginning to their middle. To me, that's like, of course, I'm not going to be as good as them. Like I don't have as much experience as them. Um, also, if they're better at like a specific skill, to me, and I could see that and I could admit that, right? Like, oh, this, like, one of my nominal competitors, right? She's better at copywriting than me, and I know it and I could see it, right? It's like it's written on the website. um I still see that and I'm like, well, as long as I'm getting results for my clients, then it's still a benefit to them. I don't have to be better. It's a marketplace and nobody's going to get 100% of the share of like all the business. Some people want to work with me literally because my personality, or like, and some people might want to work with them because their personality.
Mm.
And that's okay. And that's actually a nice thing. It kind of keeps everything in a certain balance. With that said, I do work to shore up those places where I don't feel completely like confident in.
I will say, Brandon, I think unless Google or Amazon get into the behavioral health marketing
Yeah.
space, I mean, they might be able to take all the market. That's
Right.
that's the threat
Right.
I see is, something like that
Mhm.
happening.
Google
But no,
addiction centers, right?
that's almost too real.
Oh.
But no, I appreciate both of y'all just going there. And no, Jesse, you bring up, I mean, again, our stories are very intertwined, like literally working in community mental health and seeing, trajectories and just wanting something different, comparing myself and being like, let's take a turn. Let's go somewhere and take a big risk. And so I applied to MBA programs, moved to California, and everything's different now, because of doing that. And then there's also, you touched on like the sales specific comparison is so real and it's so insidious, and it can be very motivating. And there's times where I'm at the top of the list and I'm like killing it, feeling great, and everything is working. And then there's times where I'm trying so hard and I'm middle of the pack, low of the pack, and my manager's just kind of picking at me and trying to think, what's wrong, what's not working. So yeah, that sales comparison is super, super real. But I think something that came to my brain as Brandon was talking was, what I try to do to alleviate this stuff is just think about fit. You can have, and again, I think having the sales brain, it always helps you think about the different angles and why someone would go with a vendor, why someone chooses to go into business with somebody else. Everything is fit, right? You can look at somebody's skill set and say, this person might be objectively more experienced at this thing than I am, or might have this skill set or this background. But when somebody's choosing to go into business with somebody for whatever service it is, there's an element of fit. And it's my style, it's my background, it's my experience, my little flavor to what I bring that will be different than a larger organization, than a more seasoned or professional consultant. So for me, I can look up and down a really talented host of other people in this industry, in this space, and look at their experiences. But I always try to just think to myself, like, there are really perfect Flourish and Ryan fit clients out there. And it's my job to find them and communicate that. And some people aren't my fit. Some people want people with more sophisticated social media skills, or et cetera, et cetera. And that's okay. That's maybe not the best fit. So I try to bring fit in a little bit when I get a little in my comparison brain a bit. But yeah, it's something that is a necessary evil, but you guys lay out some really good strategies there for moving forward.
I think that's why I like talking to you, Ryan, because you have always like a positive spin on it, and you see things in a way that's like everybody has value, but you just need to like see where you fit, just like you were saying. So I just wanted to point that out. I've noticed that like the last 3 or 4 times that we talked, so it's not like a new thing, but I think it's great. Yeah.
I appreciate that so much. And that's how I need to think. And that's how I do think. In order for any of us to get our first clients, it's like we have never, think about the moments where you didn't have a client for your own business, right? Consulting, copyright, whatever it is, like you didn't have a single client. All you're selling is your experience and your knowledge, your charisma a little bit, and just trying to put yourself there. But that first client just saw something and there was a good enough fit for them to say, yes, let's work together. And so that's all it is. And then you get a little better at the thing you're doing. You get better at identifying who your best fit people are. But no, man, I appreciate you saying that. I truly believe everybody has so much value to give. Everyone can unlock it in their own different ways, not just professionally, but as people. No, I appreciate you pointing that out, man.
That's nice.
Cool. I'm looking at my other questions here of like, what else I do want to touch on, like when you first heard about mental health, like that's something I always like to ask and love hearing the stories about that. And then I am curious from both of y'all's perspective, like what's a piece of media that you think really captures, whether it's the mental health experience, the system of mental health, like whatever that means to you. I'd love to hear that because I have an answer that I feel strongly about. And I want to hear y'all's. But let me start with, this is something I ask everybody. I've asked this in interviews before with people that I'm the interviewee, and I'm asking the interviewer this question. When the interviewer says, "Any questions, Ryan?" I will ask them, when did you first hear the term mental health? How old were
Mhm.
you? Where were you in your life? What did it mean to you? How was it presented? I'd love to know those answers.
I was really lucky to have a family and a mom who was very open about her own struggles with her mental health from an early age.
Wow.
Um, and I think I really appreciate the way that my mom shared, you know, like, just not too much for a kid, but also enough for me to understand that she took medication. And um, I think knowing that from an early age made it so that I knew that when I needed to seek that type of like mental health support, I've been in therapy for almost 11 years now. Um, that like that it would be okay because somebody foundational to me had, you know, been like had that be a part of their life my entire life. So I think I'm very fortunate that I grew up in a home where that was something that we talked about. And but then specifically I was thinking about, is this when mental health came up in my life, or specifically the term mental health? Because I think the first time I heard and started using the term mental health was in college when I was studying psychology. And it was, I think that when I was thinking about it earlier too, I think it just has such a positive tone to it versus other ways that you can refer to mental health. Um, and it really does imply like a trajectory forward. And um,
Mm.
I think that the shift of using that term from other terms really has just empowered me to prioritize that and see it as a positive thing rather than something that is taking away from my life. So, as somebody with lived experience of mental health struggles, um, I think that I'm really grateful for that specific term because the way that we say things matters, the way that we communicate things matters, and um, that specific term is empowering. And I think the more that we can be open with our community about what is going on in our lives, and that we have lived experience in certain things, I think that goes such a long way in supporting other people in their own journeys. So yeah.
Right on. Thank you, Jesse.
That's
Oh,
nice.
goodness.
Mhm. Yeah, having somebody who you know and love who has a condition, that's interesting because I never thought about that.
Mhm.
That's like completely opposite. I mean, everybody I know probably has something, but it wasn't like an open thing. Um, I mean, in one way, I don't want to say I'm jealous, but that's like really cool,
Mhm.
super cool. For me, I think, and this is maybe going to make you guys laugh. I think Tony Robbins was my was my introduction.
Yes.
Cuz he's more of like a coach, right? He's not like get people from 0 to 1. He's like get people from 1 to 10 kind of guy. Like if you're not like struggling really bad, he could help you, right? And luckily I was not struggling really bad, but I did always I wanted to be successful and kind of see myself as somebody that people like and that people want to be around and things like that. So I think reading like his book literally when I was 15 like planted such deep seeds in me, like no, there's always like a positive path forward. It's not just like, oh, the weather sucks. It's like, oh, the weather is like it's raining and it's going to look nice tomorrow, because it's going to water the plants. Learning that problems are not personal, they're not pervasive and they're not permanent. That is like such a simple framework, but it's super powerful. And I still tell people this like 13 years later. After that, it was when I was like 18, I was reading Nathaniel Branden. So, like Six Pillars of Self Esteem. I kind of intuited that I needed some work there, but I didn't really know why or know how. And funny enough, that book didn't help me. But I think it like maybe planted some seeds. And then after that, when I was about to turn 21, I bought this meditation course from Julian Blanc. And it came with a community, and that's like the best part because it got me like doing it every day, right? And like talking to people. And I think one thing that I would credit that program with is like deconditioning myself that crying is bad,
Mhm.
especially as a man. So that course really set me off on like that I credit that course with like my daily meditation habit, you know. So that's how I heard about mental health. I will say I feel like people in spiritual circles kind of have it figured out. You know, they're always just like, so like their skin is glowing and like, I don't know, maybe they're eating organic or something, but they're always happy. Maybe not always happy, but they're always expressing themselves and they have good boundaries.
Mhm.
I think that is definitely like a field that's being pioneered and that I see myself like going further and further down. So,
I have one other thought that I want to add, having heard that, Brandon. You made me
yeah,
think, the comment, problems are not personal. On
yeah.
my yoga retreat, we were doing acro yoga, and I was like the base, like holding up a friend who is, a person that I'm
Mhm.
trying to hold up with my legs, which is a heavy, it's heavy holding a person.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he ended up falling. And I said, "Oh, that was probably my fault." And our
Hmm.
yoga teacher paused us and said, "No, we don't talk about fault here. We say it's not working." And
Mm.
I think that if there's anything I'm going to take from that, retreat, it really is that line. And I think that's something that mindset shift can go such a long way in how we think of failure or things period that aren't working. Like, what if we
Hmm.
skip the how much time it takes to place the blame somewhere and get to the point of,
Yeah.
like, you know choosing, like, I'm not going to take that on for myself. I'm going to either take action or like move forward. And
Hmm.
I think that I've spent a lot of my life in that space of trying to assign blame to things when
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think I would have found a lot more peace sooner if I had chosen to just ask, oh, why isn't it working, and not blame myself.
Yeah.
So, um, anyways, I really appreciated that line. And as we were talking, it was
Hmm.
something that was in the back of my head that applied to kind of our bigger conversation.
I love that. You know, I grew up and my grandma was always like, you know, who did this? Who did this? You
Mhm.
know, like looking for blame. And man, just that one little reframe, it's so simple and it's so like powerful, right? Like, why isn't this working? Implying that, you know, eventually we're gonna get this working or we're gonna find a new way. Like, man, that's incredible. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, and like, again, at the root of mental health is community connection. Like, I think
Hmm.
that how we can, like, the issue in our society is that our communities aren't connected. And
Hmm.
I think, that it starts with removing blame from yourself, but also it
Hmm.
involves exploring what blame you place on other people and how that
Hmm.
inhibits your ability to, like, develop and create community around you. So
Hmm.
I think that it's such a helpful thing to, like, start with yourself and reflect on for yourself. And then um, I say this personally and not like I've mastered this, but
Hmm.
then it's also figuring out how you can apply it to other people and other situations, and
Hmm.
hopefully start to build, something where we can have communities and that result in better
Hmm.
mental health. So,
Go ahead,
What is
bro.
blame if not like totally localized, directed judgment
mhm,
on something or
Hmm.
somebody?
Hmm.
And Brandon, you mentioned Julian Blanc. Like, I discovered him this year, and I'm like,
Oh
where has
yeah.
this guy been? For me, I'm just trying to have a healthier YouTube algorithm. So when I'm
Yeah.
like just
Yep.
on YouTube Shorts or something, I'm not getting like stupid comedians and
Hmm.
podcasts and sports. Like, I want like Julian's content. It's so good. Every
Yeah.
time I get something from him, I'm like, this is what I needed to hear. Nah, dude, he's unlocked so much for me this
Buy
year.
his
Yeah.
course, bro. Buy his course. It's
I
good.
might. I just might. No, he's
Bro,
very powerful. Yeah.
I'll tell you something quick. When I bought his course, it was like 2019, and I
Yeah.
just crashed my car that I was doing Uber with, so that one got totaled.
Ooh.
I was
Yeah.
literally borrowing my grandma's car to like go to work, and I finally had enough money to get myself a car, but I bought Julian's program and it was kind of worth it. It was worth it.
Right on. Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that program has helped you in more ways in the last few years than a car would have. I'm sure that program will stay with you for the
Definitely.
rest of your life. A car
Yep.
comes and goes. Right
Definitely.
on. So
That's
on
literally
that,
what it does. It comes and goes.
it comes
mhm.
comes into your life and then it rolls away or it breaks down
Yep.
on you or
It
something.
passes away.
Yeah, oh my God. I got, yeah, car stories for days too. But speaking of like, yeah, media and people that really capture mental health and the essence of it super well. I always love also asking about a movie or a TV show or a work of fiction, I think,
Hmm.
that really captures the essence of mental health. For me, this one movie I saw years ago, it's called Short Term 12. Have you guys heard of that or no? Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Jesse, yeah, I was like, Jesse's definitely worked in that environment before. That movie, I think, best captures the vibe of working in a mental health facility.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because it was made years ago and it has like all these like Oscar nominated people now. It's like Rami Malek. I mean, Brie Larson's the lead. She's like awesome. That's like the best I've seen her in anything. Rami Malek's in it, like Keith Stanfield, like some really big, A-listers now, but like years ago, they were kind of still kind of young. But no, Short Term 12 is about like kind of a short term residential facility, 24-hour facility for like adolescents. And just like the little shit that you don't realize, but like the vibes and the approach and the style and the everydayness of it, and how everything can be really chill for hours, but then all it takes is one thing to kind of hit the fan and then like you have to be
Hmm.
on your toes, and then you go back to being like friends and you're it just captured it so well, and I just
Hmm.
was blown away at how accurate that movie was. So that's always my answer with anything to do with mental health. I'm like, that movie nailed it. But I'd love to hear, yeah, any movies for you guys that stood out, or TV shows, books for that matter.
Jesse.
I'm glad I thought about this one. Uh, there is a show on Netflix, not on Netflix, on Amazon Prime that came out, I think, in 2023 called We Are Lady Parts.
Okay.
It's
Mm.
about a British girl band. And I think that it really captures, you know, the combination of like a journey through mental health for some of the characters, but also how like what it takes to maintain and develop a community, and what healthy relationships look like, and how we can exist in our individuality in healthy relationships. So
Hmm.
it's a really sweet movie. I think the gals are in college, um, and it's really a fun one. So I highly recommend.
Right on
Nice.
Amazon, you said.
Amazon Prime, yeah. Hmm.
Right on. Oh,
That
hell yeah.
sounds good. Um, I don't know why, but the book "And the Mountains Echoed" by Khaled Hosseini came up for me, and man, that book, I bought it for my mom for Christmas, right? Kind of, I bought it for her knowing that I wanted to read it, so it was kind of like a gift, but I was going to take advantage of that. But so her and or she didn't read it, but me and my grandma did. And we were like crying our eyes out at the last like 20 pages. And so basically the book has like 10 different not short stories because it all connects at the end, but it's like main characters for like a couple chapters, right? And I remember there's this kid who is like trying to play with this poor kid in his neighborhood, like in Afghanistan or something. And then all of a sudden he sees that kid isn't coming around anymore. And it's like, oh, where is he now? And it's like, oh, he has to work. His dad died. And the kid is like 12, right? And why did the dad die? Because he was an employee of the rich kid's dad who was like in a coal, like some like real bad stuff. But the whole book is just about how like we delude ourselves into thinking we're good people, and we're like, oh, I owe this person money, like, oh, I'll pay them next year, and then like next year comes around and you're like, didn't they just get new tires? I don't need to pay them, like. But literally, I forget all the examples. But that book, man, I was just crying my face off, like so hard, like so hard. Um, yeah, I think it speaks to like how self-biased we could be,
Yeah.
like and how we could, instead of being a good person, we'll easily not be a good person when it's convenient,
Yeah.
and I guess it's not directly related to mental health, but it's like the human condition.
Yeah. Yeah. There's, oh man, a book that shifted my thought on that. I mean, it's, again, without judgment, humans are inherently self-serving. Our
Hmm.
lives, how we see the world is through our own eyes, nobody
Hmm.
else's. And it takes effort to have empathy and try our best to look at the world through other people's eyes. There's a book called, I think it's called You Are Now Less Dumb, or, oh no, You Are Not So Smart is the first one. And the sequel is You Are Now Less Dumb, which basically talks about all these cognitive biases that we come with inherently. And it takes effort to just try to get better at them. And yeah, just trying to acknowledge our programming the best we can and show up in more conscious ways. But I love that. I know we have a little time left. And again, I just want to first say thank you guys so much for your time. You guys, again, have been huge supporters of mine, of Flourish. And I love just working with you guys and seeing where we can connect and help each other grow. So I was super happy to get you both on. You guys both have been very supportive from the beginning. So thank you guys so much for your time. And on that note, I want to ask about Halloween as it's coming up in a couple days. Do we have any costumes planned? If not, is there one in the past that you think was particularly interesting?
I am gonna be, I'm not currently him, but I'm gonna be Hugh Jackman, not Wolverine.
Could have fooled me. You look pretty close right now, man.
Yeah. Dude, I shaved it and I went to like 3 stores to get the claws and they were sold out. So now I'm just like a Russian UFC fighter. Yeah.
You gotta do the do-it-yourself version, just like tape knives to your hand, be like this Edward Scissorhands Wolverine hybrid.
Well, I got 2 days. My friend Fatima told me to just like roll up aluminum foil and then kind of crunch it and then just tape it to my hand. So
exactly,
maybe I'll do that.
Or like wrap tape until you have like the pointy things and then paint them or something. You can totally DIY it.
Yeah, I think I should, because this has been my goal for like the last 4 Christmases, and every year I get a little bit closer. Like 3 years ago, I didn't shave my beard, but I had the claws, and then somebody stepped on my claws, and now this year I don't have the claws, but I have the beard, and so next year.
I mean, and I just spent the entire Zoom wondering, who does Brandon look like right now? It's Jackman. So I don't know. I feel like I really want to see this costume now.
Oh man, I have to do it now, and I'll take a pic and I'll send it to you guys.
That's amazing. Can't wait.
Hell yeah.
I like to come up with my costume day of. So last year it was sleepover Barbie, because Barbie was all the rage, but my most proud costume was Charlie Brown, because I just put
that's great.
And it felt so fun. I just loved being Charlie Brown. So I don't know what this year will hold. We'll see.
Right on. I love that. The day of Halloween costume. I did that one year where me and my friend, he had his costume. I didn't have mine yet. We just went to the store and I just bought whatever was available at the Halloween store. I threw it together and I invented a costume. Sometimes those are the best times.
Wait, what about you, Ryan? What are you going to be?
Okay. All right. So me and my girlfriend, we love playing Mario Party. It's a game of chance generally, but I've gotten it down to a science, more or less. I love playing as Wario. He's, he's got this vibe and this aura to him. And Delaney loves being Birdo, which, if you know Birdo, she's like the female opposite to Yoshi. So she's like this pink dinosaur. They're very cute. So we always play as Wario and Birdo. So I'm going to be Wario. My costume's coming. I think Delaney is late on her costume. She's got to figure it out. We have a party we're going to. So I'm going to be Wario and she's going to be Birdo, a couple Nintendo characters.
Nice. That sounds great. That sounds fun.